So we're on ESN, and I'm sitting here today with Ian Riley. Ian Riley is a second-generation business owner and entrepreneur that's in the local Frederick, Maryland area. He's run and done a lot of different things, from motorcycle racing to everything in between, from teaching to you name it. And now he's stepped into his father's shoes and is running his business in the local area. So here's Ian.
Thank you, Eric. Appreciate the introduction.
Yeah, man.
Yeah.
Definitely. So you're second generation business entrepreneur, and it was a heck of a journey to get to where you are today.
I always say everything's a book, and we've had a lot of chapters along the way.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, yeah, my parents moved here in 1975 and opened the business in September of 75. So we're creeping up on 50 years, which is quite a landmark for any business.
Yeah, it's a milestone.
Yeah.
50 years.
Yeah.
Now, what's the backstory? Do you know the story behind why did Dad come to Frederick?
Yeah, that in itself is a pretty interesting story. So my dad, growing up, always had an interest in motorcycles, and his mother said, over my dead body, when you live under this roof, there'll be no motorcycles. So he joined the Navy. When he was in the Navy, he was actually had some leave over in Barcelona, Spain, went to a motorcycle show, bought his first motorcycle, brought it back from Spain, a Bull Taco, and back to the States, and that's where his first motorcycle adventure began. Early 70s, he had the opportunity to buy into a dealership in Woodbridge, Virginia, Virginia Kart and Cycle. So 74, 75, multi-partnership dealership, 3 or 4 families owning it. That's kind of tough when you have 4 owners, 4 wives, things like that.
Gosh, I can't even imagine.
One of his loves, though, is dirt track racing, flat track motorcycle racing. And there was a race in Frederick called the Barbara Fridge Classic, started in 1922, that he'd come to with a couple of his friends, early 70s and up. And that was one of the first racing experience I had, was coming with my parents, like 3 or 4 to the race. So coming to Frederick, 1970 spring or summer of 75, there was an opportunity for a Yamaha dealership in Frederick. Yamaha Frederick was trying to sell, and my mom and dad bought the rights to Yamaha franchise and opened Fredericktown Yamaha in September of 1975.
Was Dad a Frederick native?
No. My dad was actually born in St. Louis, Missouri. Kansas City, Missouri, and a military family. And so he had ended up growing up in his teenage years in Springfield, Virginia. So from Northern Virginia, that's where he met my mom. And now Frederick became part of our story in 1975.
When he found out that he could open up when he was looking to open up a dealership.
On his own, yeah.
So he opens this dealership up on 355.
At the corner of Grove Road and 355. Yeah.
And there was very few businesses out there at the time.
Minimal. Yeah,
Yeah.
down the 7-Eleven, the Reinhardts opened the 7-Eleven the same year that my dad opened the business. Just down the street was May's Carryout, which was a carryout grocery store at the time with Doug May.
Yeah. Which is transformed.
By all means, yes. It's a staple now along that 355. Short of the mobile home park, and a Texon station up at the Texaco station, up at the point, there wasn't much else other than farm fields and the truck stop. Yeah.
The truck stop, the I-70 truck stop.
Yeah.
Man, that's a blast from the past. I remember that.
Yeah, it's hard to picture it now.
Was the mall, was Francis Scott Key Mall out there?
No, the new mall hadn't been built yet.
The new mall.
Yeah.
The new mall.
So the old mall there, Fredericktown Mall was the only one there, and then you had the Frederick Shopping Plaza, and 7th Street Shopping Center was still pretty new at that point. But I think FSK was late 70, 79, 80.
Okay.
I believe is when it opened up. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, that was the place.
Yeah.
That was the hangout, man.
All the good stuff.
Yeah, all the good stuff at the mall. Yeah. You always went to the mall. How things have changed. So since 75, then you were born. How old are you at this
1970,
point?
So yeah, I was 5 years old.
Okay, so you're 5 years old.
Yeah.
You have any memories of that?
I do. I feel blessed that I got to grow up in the business. It used to be a little dirt oval next to the dealership in between the Fredericktown Yamaha building and what was Milk Producers Co-op at the time, which is now a parking lot for Nissan. But yeah, so we go in with my mom and dad, and I'd hang out behind the counter with my mom, and I get to ride my dirt bike around in circles out there growing up, and taking out trash and putting oil in bags and helping put up on the counter, and yeah, lost my first tooth to the cash register drawer coming open. So yeah, a lot of good times. Yeah.
You're the only person I've ever met that has actually lost
a tooth to the cash register drawer. Yeah,
tooth to the cash register drawer.
Yeah.
That was a heavy drawer.
It was.
Yeah,
It
made them industrial back then.
It did. Everything was heavier back then.
Yeah, I was going to
sure.
say, you're hitting the face with one on ones downstairs. They're like plastic. Probably
bounce
break
off.
the drawer, yeah.
Right.
So, 70s, 80s, you guys are just doing Yamaha.
So yeah, so open up with Yamaha, and at the time, it's kind of hard to picture it now, but when the business was my dad first purchased the business, it was two old buildings. One was the house, the front part, which is closer to the corner of 355 Grove Road. The back building, which is the service department now, was I believe it was a kiln or a ceramic kiln type building. And when my dad purchased the business, he had a partner there in the property. That's how it worked originally. He's now, years later, he purchased the property from his, that part of the partner. But they built the showroom, which is the showroom now. And that connected the two buildings. It's the landscape of it. Looking at it, that whole area has changed. Like you were saying, there wasn't much out there. There were trees on the property at one point. And so in my mind, trying to picture how things were to how they are now, the progression is interesting. But what I'm saying, though, is originally it was so small, where what is now the parts department was offices and room for about 6 motorcycles, plus a parts department, all shoved in one small area. Once the showroom was built, then there was more room for motorcycles. And they did Yamaha snowmobiles originally, which in this area we don't have enough snow to really support that business.
Not now.
No, not lately. And then my dad brought in Moto Guzzi and Triumph. Both were short-lived because the manufacturers themselves had struggles.
Your father started off with a bike that was built
in Europe. Yeah.
In Europe.
Yeah.
And so he's always had an affinity for those brands. Correct?
It did, yeah. And that's the backbone of where motorcycling came from. You have Harley Davidson here on the state side, and Indian, which has now made a resurgence. But yeah, those European brands, whether it be Ducati, Bultaco, Triumph, they all had a bit of character to them, and also the availability of having something to sell.
Yeah, BSA.
Yeah, BSA, very small arms. Yeah, Birmingham small arms.
Yeah.
So we brought those two brands in. As we learned once again here in present time, British aren't always easy to work with. So Triumph had some hard times. Triumph went away as a business in '82. They closed shop. And so we went back to being strictly Yamaha. But over the years, things you do to try to diversify your business, snapper lawnmowers for a period of time. At one point in time, the corner we sold the old Honda Civics, the original Honda Civics. There were a bunch of them out there. My dad had a gentleman that sold used Honda Civics on the corner of the property. And that was
kidding.
Early 80s. It was way when things got tough. Try to find ways to cover the bills and keep things going and have people come to the door.
Keep the lights on.
By all means. It's life of a small business owner. It's the formula that doesn't work every single day in one form. You have to adapt. Yeah.
That's true. The formula that doesn't work every single day.
Right.
It's the truth. It is always changing, isn't it?
Yeah. No. It's whether it's environment, economy, population, interests, demographics. It's if you sit still, you're going to get left behind. But finding which way to go forward, that's tough. And
government regulations, I would add to that.
100%.
And government involvement.
Every day.
every day.
Yeah.
Much to our chagrin. So are we okay, Beck? Is everything all right?
Cameras are much darker.
You want to just brighten them up and forget the grain?
Yeah.
Okay, so we were talking about the transitions and the things that you had to go through, and bringing in different things, and a lot of things that people, I do not believe that very many folks think about this, is that when you're a small business owner, you're not like a mega store. You're not like a and what I mean by that is that stores that have billions of dollars of income can absorb changes, like as in minimum wage.
Right.
They can absorb adjustments in costs of goods. You guys had to deal with import fees, things like that. And when you're dealing on a grand scale, these massive corporations, which, granted, hey, we need them, but when mom and pop shops have a 10% minimum wage hike or 15% minimum wage hike, I was watching. You ever watch PBD? Pat Bet Davis.
A little bit, yes.
Yeah, okay. Yeah. So I watched Pat the other day, and he was giving a breakdown on the impact of changes in minimum wage since the minimum wage was instituted in like the 1920s, 30s, something like that, 1940s, all the way up into today, and how it has impacted small businesses. And what you're talking about, to me, is a reflection of all of the components that you're talking about within, whether it be the economy, the government, regulations, cost of operations. You're dealing with products from overseas, so also overseas economies that are all influencing how your business is able to function. And so therefore your father before you, and I assume you today, we're always looking at opportunities to diversify, to cover that change, to adjust for that change. Your dad, you said you were selling Snapper lawnmowers.
Yeah,
he was selling Honda CRXs or Civics.
Civics,
Honda
Civics.
Civics.
Yeah, little hatchbacks, little original Civics.
Yeah,
that was just a niche thing that at the time that only lasted like a year or two.
It's so crazy. Did you know that my dad sold the Yugos?
Oh, really? Yeah.
He partnered up with the dealership, the Dodge dealership, which used to be down Watkins Burdett.
Yeah.
And we didn't sell them. I can't say we were the inventory lot.
Right. Yeah.
In the wintertime.
Yep.
For Yugo.
Yeah.
What an awesome car.
Yeah, it's funny. Yeah, that's a name you don't hear very often.
Yeah, the Yugo. We used to say it was like, I don't know if you remember the there was a Saturday Night Live skit that they called it the Adobe.
Right, yeah, the Adobe. Yes. I remember
the
that
car made out of clay.
That's it. Yep.
And the Yugo, we always said it has it was pleather interior, and that car was slightly dangerous.
Somewhat. I had a friend of mine that was a lot attendant at Watkins Burnett.
Yeah.
And he said the number of stick shifts that broke off in hand, because the stick shift itself was plastic, so you got to put it in reverse, and the stick shift would break off in your hand.
The name in my head is Chrissy Meredith, and her father, I cannot remember his name, whatever, Mr. Meredith, was one of the owners, or my father could probably fill in the blanks on this one, but she drove a Yugo, and it was I had an opportunity, I think at like 16, 17 years old, to ride in a Yugo. So I'm sure that you're riding around in the Honda Civics that your dad was selling for a short period of time, because it was small businesses, and we were trying to come up with ways to earn an extra buck and cover the cost of operations.
And it's interesting, and a little bit of backstory, the Honda Civic sales, the two years that happened, I believe, the gentleman that ran the sales program ran that sales department, he was a salesman for the Honda Civic, was starting up a business relationship with an Italian manufacturer that made helmets. And so the original address for AGV North America was 5800 Urbana Pike, the corner of Grove Road and 385. Michael Perrott was starting that, and he was selling the used Civics to kind of help supplement stuff. And then AGV North America grew, and AGV Helmets you're familiar with.
Yeah.
Which then also he did AGV Sport. But another small business that generated from the opportunity there on the corner to move on to advance on as well.
I had no idea. AGV helmets started right here in Frederick.
Yeah, we have
in the U.S.
Yeah, so I want to say 1979, probably 80, 81. The catalogs have Grove Road 355 as the address. Yeah, pretty wild. Yeah, so it's I'm lucky to be able to see not just my father's business, but interaction with other businesses and things like that along the way. But you mentioned impact and how to diversify and how we're impacted by various things. Mid 80s were a difficult time in the motorcycle industry. Harley Davidson was trying to make a comeback. They've been through some struggles. They went to the government and they felt that the Japanese manufacturers were dumping product in the United States. So in 1985, Ronald Reagan, great economist, but he also wanted to protect U.S. industry. Helped pass legislation to oppose a 50% sales tax, 50% import tax on any imported Japanese product over 750 cc's to help raise the cost of the units to the customer to put it on a more level playing field with Harley Davidson. And that made, a number of years that made it kind of tough just because it went from being an affordable product for people to get into to bring it up, which once again, that's where diversification comes in because now you've lost some of your customer base, you can't afford it. And so the snapper mowers or things like that that are a little more commonplace and use small engines, so it's still tied in. We had mechanics that could work on small engines and could service a community that was growing. So that came about because of things like government intervention.
Yes. I would actually classify some of these things as a little bit of government overreach.
At times, yeah.
And it's you understand the bigger picture, and you try to be. I'm obviously we're both. We're locals. I've known you almost my entire life,
right? Yeah.
And we're America first. We're
right.
very much. It's all about. Hey, we want to put our country first, and so when your country makes a decision like that, you're like, oh, that sucks. But you know what? I'll move with it. I'll do what I can.
And it did make sense in the grand scheme of things. At the time, the Japanese manufacturers were dumping loads and loads of product. So as hard as it was as a business to kind of deal with it, the first part, it leveled things out for us even. So it controlled it so that we weren't stacked up with product that we were making small margins on. And it really, everything happens for a reason, and how you react to it and adapt to it really played a part in it. So you can get angry at the world and angry at the situation and blame the government, but when it comes down to it, we have such a small say in some things, but we can do is our everyday actions. And in business, you really have to embrace the fact that it is up to you to make things happen. So that's kind of that situation we did.
Yeah.
And then ATVs came about, and that was a whole other thing.
We started
with the three-wheelers.
The three-wheelers came out, man. Yeah. That was awesome.
Whole nother government intervention for that, which is probably for the better, just a safety aspect.
They're not tippy.
No, not at all.
They're not tippy at all.
A bear on a tricycle.
Yeah.
So, but it's just we've seen a lot of changes in the industry, but as struggle as it is, sometimes it's fun to look back and see how we've progressed through it.
Now, when did you get into? Because you're an avid motorcyclist simply by exposure, I believe.
Product of the environment. And you raced motocross for a very long. Yeah, I always joke 20 years ago on a 100-pound slider. Growing up in the dealership, of course, I had an interest in motorcycles. And my dad was a fan of dirt track racing, which is on an oval. I took to jumping. I like to jump stuff. So 1978, I was able to start racing motocross on a YZ80, which, for a little 8-year-old was probably too big of a bike. But we made it work. And then I just grew up with the love of it, love of competition, to race and progress through. And not just that, the friendships, the connections. Our first interaction was
Yeah, through
dirt
motorcycles,
bikes,
yeah.
you know, and the number of people I can look at over the years that I've become friends with. The racing itself is phenomenal. The challenge and the accomplishments I feel like I've had through that, you know, I'll always be grateful for that. But the time I spent with my dad going to the races and the friendships I made, that is just a tie-in that I can, I don't think I could ever be grateful enough for.
Yeah.
So it's pretty amazing. But yeah, no, I had a blast racing, you know, just, I had my time with successes. I learned how to fall. I learned how to get up. You know, it's stuff that always crosses over into life. And, yeah, at one point in high school, I played football for 2 years. And halfway through, after 2 days before the season started, I went to my coach and I said, I have to make a decision between racing motorcycles and football. And I am going to dedicate myself to racing. And the coach who I'm friends with now because I taught with him years later, said, where's motorcycle racing going to get you?
Right.
And in my mind at 15 years old, I said, you know, if I ever became a professional football player, which I'm not because I'm not that good, and I played quarterback and a short quarterback, so at that time there were 28 teams. I'm not one of the top 28 in the country football player, but I think I can be pretty good at motocross. So years later, I actually had the opportunity to I had my pro license for a number of years, and on a couple afternoons in 95 and 96, I qualified for nationals, and I was one of the top 40 guys in the country on those given days. You know, so to make that decision at 16 and pursue it and see that come to fruition at some point was that I can check that box off as success.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's an accomplishment.
Yes. I look back and it's hard to believe sometimes. Yeah. I went to, it was Budge Creek was where I qualified, which is Southern Maryland.
Yeah.
Big event. And I was there 2 years ago and I was talking to people that I just met. And one of the guys was like, you ever raced here before? And I was like, yeah, a quarter century ago, I actually was one of these guys, and you know, I was on the line and racing with the best in the country.
Bud's Creek, Aquasco.
Yep, Aquasco. There's Trailway Speedway.
Trailways, yeah.
Yeah, there's a number of the sad part is Budge Creek's one of the few that's still around.
Mm-hmm.
Aquasco got shut down because of EPA.
Mm-hmm.
93. Trailways was just sold and leveled, and now it's going to be housing area.
Wow.
Antietam in Hagerstown.
Antietam.
That property sat vacant since 98, 99. When that got shut down, it is now, as of a year ago, is now industrial buildings, much like what's back behind here.
I hope that that's not something that continues to diminish. I hope that people get an idea in their head that, you know, this is something that we need.
Right.
We need competitive sports because by having competitive sports, you're actually building better human beings.
We learn how to interact, both at a competitive, but still at a friendship level. Mm-hmm. You can be competitive. You can want something more and want to, I don't want to say defeat somebody, but want to have victory, but also share in the pleasure of when someone else can be victorious. You learn a lot from that. I fear we lose a good bit of that because of dynamics of things and nature of your business here, nature of our business. People don't feel like they have to leave the house now to be entertained, whether it be go ride a motorcycle or play video games or do putt-putt or whatever it may be. The nature of society right now, everything's self-serve from home to the point they can have their groceries brought to them. That scares me because it's limiting the interaction, just the personal interaction when you go someplace, you have to talk to somebody. And enjoyment. I think that there's some kids who will never know that. I always joke, I'm like, I feel bad for generation today. They don't know the joy of walking a Toys R Us and just taking it all in. You know, they don't know the joy of receiving a Sears Christmas catalog in September and sitting with it and drawing dog earing everything and circling it. You know, now they can go on their phone and pull up Amazon and see whatever toys they want
right now,
anytime.
Right.
But that anticipation of it is kind of lost. And when it comes to business, the fact that you can buy most things online, you lose some of that feeling of walking in the front door of Adventure Park and feeling the excitement, the energy, all that stuff. The idea of walking into a motorcycle shop, just smelling the smell of tires and all
oil
the
and
senses
gas,
oil and gas and the enthusiasm, or seeing someone when you're there, someone else rides in, and you get to see that enjoyment, and you get to interact and share a commonality in person. So I fear those things as we progress forward because of the way the technology has brought things. So we fight hard to get people to interact, and not to jump too far forward, but of all the downsides of COVID, whatever it may have been, it did get people out doing things again, which was you don't know what you got until it's gone. When that was taken away from us, people got out and did things with one another, got out and hiked and rode motorcycles, and when they had the opportunity to come back to here, they did it because they could. It freaks me out though, because in a short amount of time, we see people falling back into the habits of staying in their houses away from things. So, as a business owner, interacting with one another, whether it be a podcast or using social media to try to get people enthused and interact. It's things we have to constantly fight for so we don't lose what we have and what we love. Mm-hmm. I always joke that in a world of social media, we're probably less social than ever. So trying to stay connected in a disconnected world.
Yeah, how many times do you reach out to a friend, an old friend of yours, or a current friend that you're, and they're, I'm just so busy. I'm just so busy. I'm just so busy. And you hear that a lot.
Yeah.
And you wonder, well, when did we lose sight of the fact that we need to sit down and have, my folks used to have the neighbors over for dinner. Yeah. They used to get together, and Dad would play pinochle with a couple guys from that lived on our street.
Right.
And, when you're sitting here talking about the things about how things have changed, I reflect back to what all of those things meant to me in developing my character and who I am as a person, like how to interact with individuals when you're talking to somebody, you're making eye contact with them. You're knowing how to, or when it comes to motorcycling, dirt biking, whatever, and you're racing, learning how to lose gracefully, learning how to win with dignity, having, knowing how to overcome challenges, because when you're racing, when you're out on the dirt bike track, when you're out on the motocross track, and you eat it.
Yeah.
You cage it coming over a tabletop, and then you're down on the ground, you're in the dirt, you got to get back up, you're hurt, it sucks.
Yeah. And I have a friend of mine that very successful motocross racer, and Denny Stevenson. And the running joke is his dad used to ask him, "Are you hurt or are you hurt?" Because he kind of figured out if you're just hurt, let's push through it. If you're hurt, we go get checked out.
Yeah. Is the bike broke or you broke?
Right, exactly. So what level are we at, and how do we go forward from it? But it's interesting. It's you pick yourself back up, and you keep going forward. That has crossed over a good bit in being successful in business, because you walk through the door some days and you have defeat. You have some days just hit jar with others, or things are challenges. The options are to close up shop and run away. So I don't want to do this anymore, or you find a way to work through it, and it's much more satisfaction in knowing that you can survive those things. Life's not easy. If it was, it'd be boring.
Yeah,
right?
It is an interesting trip, isn't it?
Yeah.
I'm going to go back to when you were young, coming up, working under your father, working around your father and mother, because you're like me, your mom and dad were both involved, right? This is it's strange, the similarities. So mom and dad are involved. You're learning all the aspects of the business, and you're growing up with inside of a family, the dynamic. So you're getting to see the economic woes, the ups and downs, the good years and bad years, good seasons, bad seasons, because your business relies on this is a seasonal type business. Yeah. Can you elaborate on or expand on what was it like as a young man seeing that example in your parents and seeing what they were going through?
Yeah, I was exposed that being that the life of a business owner is not, you don't get everything for free, and it's not all fame and glory. It's a hard work and the effort my dad put in, and the stress that came with it, and my mom. And my mom worked in the business up until I think my youngest brother started school, and then to make ends meet, just because at the time health insurance was getting expensive, and with everything going on. My mom, before I was born, was a school teacher. So once Brent started first grade, she went back to teaching. And my dad says the reason we could have the business is because my mom had her income from teaching, and the insurance came with it and things like that. So there was a struggle there. Because then she had run the parts department for a number of years, so she turned that over to someone else, and she went back to teaching so the business could exist in a sense. Not just that she enjoyed teaching, which she did, but sacrifice on their part. So I learned a lot about, it's you do what you need to do, and you find ways to make things work. So growing up there, I would ride the bus from school to the shop. I'd get off there in the afternoons, and I'd take out trash. I'd help out where I could, sweep stuff around. And part of that was it was instilled in me that basically I did get the chance to ride dirt bikes and go racing, but I also know I had to work for it. My dad made sure that I was active. It wasn't just, go home, sit on the couch, do nothing, and you get to do this on the weekends. I was active at the business. I also learned lessons real quick that everything's for sale. I used to, my mom used to go make deposits in the afternoon and pick up lunch for my dad. And I'd ride along with her, and went to lunch one day. I had the little dirt track next to the shop. I'd ride in the morning. I parked my motorcycle out in front of the sidewalk, in front of the shop, went with my mom to do a deposit, get lunch. I come back, my dirt bike's not there. So I go run around back in the service. My dirt bike's not there. And I come in, and I must have been 6 or 7. And I remember my mom standing in front of my dad saying, "Richard, you need to tell him." And that's my dad told me that another family came in, a young man needed a motorcycle for his birthday, and his dad bought it. And so I sold him your motorcycle, and there'll be another motorcycle. We get just something else in the next week or so. But sometimes in business, that's what we had to do because we didn't have something else to sell them. And I was heartbroken, but I learned. I also never went to lunch with my mom again. I never left the shop. I stayed there, and it was like, but it's things that just happen, and I survived, and I had other dirt bikes, and so but it was a life's lesson, It's in small business. You got to do what you got to do sometimes.
Yeah, and after years of therapy, you've been able to work through. You've been able to go to lunch with your mom now.
Lot of dirt therapy, yes. I got a lot of time to do that, but it's yeah.
Oh man,
good stuff. But
we went to lunch. I went to lunch and my bike's gone. That's brutal.
Yeah, but it's there's just.
But I get it.
It is, and you saw it. You saw the sacrifice your parents made to make things go, and people don't see that. People they don't see that when the doors close, or that when things happen that that there's hours for a business, but that's the hours the business is open to the public. There's the time before and after that they don't see. The hard work, the stress, the struggles, making ends meet sometimes. It gets tough, and that's not. I think people kind of have an understanding of it, but they don't really know. It's stress on families. It's difficult. So I got to see that. I got to see the struggle and the understanding, and that, and knowing that time's going to be tough. It doesn't mean it's the end or the disaster, but you just have to adapt. So I feel a lot of what I've learned along the way is from exposure of seeing my family, my parents run the business.
Yeah, and it's affected you, or has it affected you in such a way that when you're looking at or dealing with other businesses that are local businesses, that you can relate more with those individuals because you understand the difficulties and the struggles and the things that you went through. And so when you're walking into a local restaurant or business or what have you, you get it.
Yeah, I've learned to appreciate things and not take anything for face value, and that no matter the situation, I found myself not quick to judge or to cast a stone because I step back and there's way more than what people are seeing. So I have friends that get really uptight. Oh, that's horrible, and will berate businesses. I'm like, just Just give it a second. You know,
Yeah,
if they're
Google
rude or nasty
reviews.
to you, yeah,
Google reviews.
yeah. We just got, we're very blessed to have a lot of really strong reviews. We got one over the weekend that was just off character, and a person's had 2 reviews, one in Colorado, one here, and basically gives 1 star, and that just eats away at me because I'm like, it's not us. But, it's funny how that now can impact our business. And so, with that said, we do our best to treat people fairly, and likewise, we go and deal with local businesses that we know are also to treat them fairly as a consumer.
Yeah. And that's, I think that is something that, in my opinion, something that is of value to bring to the table that, hey, guys, you probably don't know. You don't know, and when I say that, I'm saying that to the folks that are listening, and not in a hey, we're up here, you're down there.
Yeah, not condescending.
Not in a condescending manner, more as a, I just want to make sure that you do know. And by watching and listening to this podcast and podcasts like this, it gives you a insight, which hopefully will help broaden your perspective of what it is actually like to go through the day-to-day operations of being in business for yourself. Things like Google reviews. When you walk into a business, we had one the other day, and it was brutal. And again, it's very similar, where you have people that just look for an opportunity to bash, and when they walk into a company like yours, they're thinking, this is a Yamaha shop. Well, this is Yamaha, so we're gonna bash Yamaha, or we're going to, think about, I guess my advice would be, think about the lives and the families that are impacted. Because as far as I know, you don't have the Scrooge McDuck, I use this as an analogy, the Scrooge McDuck safe full of, of gold coins that you're swimming around in. It's a grind. What small business owners do is they grind it out day after day with very thin margins and and bring home pay that is meager compared to if we were to go into go to work for a mega corporation or a large corporation.
Yeah, no, it's my father and I have conversations about the regular that I could probably be doing much better working outside of the business doing something else.
And better is subjective, right? So better is
better compensation maybe.
Yeah.
I don't know, better mentally, and I have the opportunity to do what we need to do, what we do, and interact with the people I want to interact with, and create a service that I can be proud of at the end of the day. But it's it's easy to see something and paint your own picture of it, not knowing all the base layers that went into it to create the picture. We're closed on Sundays and Mondays, so being closed on Sundays and Mondays is often misunderstood as being off on Sundays and Mondays. Business is closed. I'm there on Mondays 4 or 5 hours doing paperwork or working back in servicing, doing the stuff that can't be done during the week. I'm there after hours, getting the stuff done. And that's a lot of times by myself because it's the time I can get done uninterrupted. A lot goes into it, and staffing is difficult because I'm lucky I have a good core employee base right now, but it's small. I have 4 employees that are just might as well be family. But we're short in 2 or 3 areas where I could need someone else, but to try to find somebody qualified that fits the demeanor of our business, whether it be character or skill set, commitment, at a pay level that we're not a big corporation. So I want to pay fairly, but I can't, pay over the moon because it's just not there. Yeah. So as much as it's nice to have your own business, to be in. There's days I wake up, I'm like, going to UPS in the morning, loading boxes onto a truck and leaving is a admirable job in itself, and it'd be nice sometimes to go to work, get off work, turn it off, and go enjoy what I want to enjoy. I trade it now, but there's times you think about that stuff. Sometimes it'd be nice just to to have a job and have a life and not have them so intertwined.
Yeah. Yeah. You talked about finding staff and finding qualified staff and finding people that have basically the character of what you're looking for within your company. I don't know if you've ever heard the phrase before, entrepreneur. I've never heard this before. This is something I just introduced to just recently. Entrepreneur, there's so many folks that talk about that they want to start their own business. They want to be entrepreneurs. They want to do this and that and the other. There's a newer mindset that seems to be being pushed that is an entrepreneur. And an entrepreneur is somebody who sees somebody that is in business for themselves, that has that drive, ambition, the push. And then you come in along with that person with the opportunity to maybe eventually have stock options or have buy-in or you're creating an opportunity for yourself by stepping in next to a leader, an entrepreneur who's already has an established company, established business, and showing your true grit and grinding it out on a daily basis and figuring out, because what better thing I'm thinking of could you have on your team than somebody who is truly looking at the business from an ownership standpoint and is motivated to the success of the company rather than looking at it as I'm working to the Ian Riley's success or Richard Riley's success. I'm building up a company that if I make this company successful, this benefits me.
Right.
And I just recently saw that. I just recently was reading and studying or reading and learning about it, about this phraseology of entrepreneur. I thought, what a wonderful thing to, if you could imagine that, having somebody in there that is really just grinding it out on a daily basis with the idea that, hey, you know what? I want to come alongside somebody. I want to make something out of what you're making because, hey, maybe I'm into motorcycles. I love the industry as a whole. I find satisfaction in making people happy and having them enjoy, their pastime or what have you. There's so many components to your business and your industry that are fascinating and enjoyable.
Yeah, yeah.
So
yeah, it's interesting though, and then that's there are people, you go through life and you find people that you gel with that have an interest that you could see doing that with if the time arose. But I'm sure that you probably feel it somewhat as well, and it's not being selfish, but there's a bit of protectiveness because your mom and dad worked very hard for this, and you want to protect what they've built. And so whatever I do, it reflects on them. Almost to the fact where I forget about myself. The goal is to reflect what they've built, the legacy, and always fear like who's going to be. Will someone cherish that and nurture it and take care of it as well as I will? I don't mean that in a like I said, selfish way, but more in a protective way. Mm-hmm. And so trying to find that right person, and they're out there. It's just the proper opportunity. And then on the other hand, it's that adds a whole nother level of, I don't want to say stress, but we're concerned that if someone steps up and invests in what you do and wants to be alongside of you, there is a bit of commitment that I need to be successful for them as well. Mm-hmm. That failure becomes less of an option. Not that it's an option to begin with, but less of an option because it's not just you. You have someone else that has interest that relies on you now to push forward. You have staff here that's just staff, and you have commitment for them when things get tight or things slow down. They have families, and as being a family business, you respect the need to take care of your employees for the family aspect of it. So as you reflect upon the possibility of entrepreneurship, it adds a whole nother level of concern of responsibility to not just yourself but to someone else.
Yeah, I think it's the mindset of the individual that would
Yeah.
be stepping into that role. That's
The
the way
right
that
person, yeah.
right, the right person that would step into that role that would really take it on. Because I'm sure you've seen it. I've seen it so many times where people think that, hey, this is I'm gonna do this. You go and you start a new position with a new company or a new job, and they're out of the gates like a million miles an hour.
Yeah.
They're off and running, and but there's no longevity. There's no ability to maintain it because it's not who they are. And so you always figure out, well, I think in the first 6 months, maybe less, whether or not somebody may, sometimes it's just 6 hours, you realize this person is not panning out the way that you would hope that they, and more often than not, it's you've got a lot of people that are short distance sprinters, not long distance runners.
Yeah, yeah. I go back to I can relate most things to motocross.
Yeah.
I always look at things, especially business.
Wonder why.
Yeah,
That's so strange.
It's really the one thing I can relate to, and it puts things in perspective for me. And I've like I said, I've found level of success and defeat in it, so and everywhere in between. But I look at things like that as a set of whoop-de-doos. A row of jumps, basically 50 yards long, one after another.
I hated them, by the way.
And I loved them. That's my thing. It's one thing I excelled at. And I think a lot of it for me was it was something I had to commit to. And as soon as you got to it, you couldn't go in halfway. You had to commit. And you couldn't, if you were halfway through them, you couldn't change your mind because it was a disaster. So as soon as you went in with an attitude and drove through, full commitment, and even pushing past that commitment towards the end got you through fast. And if you watch any pro racing on television, the ones that go through at speed, they accelerate through it. And as you talked about people coming into it and having acceleration coming in, the whoop's going to be the demise because they come in all gung-ho, ready to go, and they get about halfway through, and then they start doubting or they start questioning, or that's not what they thought it was going to be. Things got a little uncomfortable, and then it goes sideways.
Yeah.
And it becomes painful, and it becomes and the bad part is, and sometimes you're that far in, there's no exit strategy. You're just there. So, and so for me, life's like a set of whoops. You full commitment, and then when you get in there, that you can't deny the commitment. You have to push forward and accelerate. And then when you're through them, then you can take a breath, and then move on to the next obstacle. Trying to find that person that's willing to step alongside with you and commit fully, without that hesitation. It's trying. That's a challenge. I think they're out there. I have a handful of people that I would graciously do business with because I know what their commitment level is. And I have a friend, Will, that says I'm trying to think who said originally, but how you do anything is how you do everything. So the smallest thing, how you commit to it, and I think you find the right person that can live with that kind of an aspect of life, and then that's where the person you pair up with and you move forward with.
Yeah. That's I to be able to find people like that and cultivate people like that. But I think what I'm sitting here thinking about so many different things kind of bouncing around in my head, but one of the things that you touched on that I think is so impactful on the day-to-day for any small business owner is when you grow your team, the way that you are growing your team, you are also growing your family, if you will. And you're ultimately as the are you the president, or are you the
general manager?
General manager.
I keep part of the team.
GM. That sounds
part
good.
of the team. Yeah,
part of the team. As a general manager or the decision maker within your company, when you're bringing on other people and they have families, I think that's key. You're thinking about how this is going to affect their lives, how this is going to affect their family, how this is going to affect their children.
Right.
Because you now have a level of commitment and responsibility as a business owner to offer them a certain level of protection within the confines of your company.
Mm-hmm.
And that you carry that responsibility on a day-to-day, week-in, week-out basis, because it's not just about you making a paycheck. That's what I'm taking away from what you're saying.
Yeah, it's no 100%. It's if if we can be successful together, we'll be successful together. If we all do the proper things, we all advance. But also recognizing the value of our staff becomes a big part of it. So, and as we go through having staff that can appreciate and understand where their strengths are, plays a big part in our success as well. So, talking about diversification years ago, or what we did with the snapper lawnmowers and things like that. I have 2 employees that are avid bicyclists. One is our parts manager, Jason Conlon, who was actually a top-level, national-level motorcycle racer, was in X Games and things like that. But he stopped racing motorcycles in 2012 and started bicycling a good bit, mountain biking, things like that. And then another gentleman we work with, Steve Coleman. Steve came in as part-time, went full-time, and works in parts and then does some sales for us. Steve is very active in bicycling as well and put on events like up near Myersville called Gravity Soul. It's a dual slalom event. So I saw their interest and their passion for bicycles. 2019, Yamaha brought over a pedal assist e-bicycle to the States. They've been doing pedal assist bicycles in Japan since '93. They've been doing motors for companies like Giant since 2012 and up. Anyways, there's opportunity. Knowing that the economy's changing a little bit, we brought in the e-bikes, and we brought those in December of 2019. Timing is everything. Spring of 2020, everything shuts down. People need to find something to do outside. We took off with the e-bike business. And I had 2 employees there that were knowledgeable, that could talk bicycles, that could embrace it. And when someone came in, we weren't just a motorcycle shop that had a bicycle in the corner, sold it just something to do. I had 2 employees that were invested in it. And I think, at least from my standpoint, to see their pride in what they're doing and have that conversation and take ownership of that part of it, to be involved in it, was good for our business. Yeah. And we've grown that side. And over the last 3 years, we had a relationship with Triumph for 20 years. We brought Triumph back in 2000, Triumph motorcycles, and served our community well. We're a small shop. We're old school. I call it small shop. We're a motorcycle shop. That term doesn't get used very much anymore. You have motorcycle dealerships and you have retail establishments. We're a motorcycle shop. Triumph, we were number 1 in customer satisfaction for like the last 3 years in the country. Let's say last 3 years, up until 22. Triumph has a brand, their brand standards, and they want all the dealerships to have the same look, feel, and appearance. So when you walk into a Triumph dealership in Tampa, Florida, San Francisco, New York, Frederick, they want them all to look the same. Investment was going to be close to $85,000 for the displays, flooring, lighting, everything, and space that we didn't have. Even though we did our part and took care of our customers, they came to us and said, well, the Triumph customer expects a premium buying experience. Like we send the customers a CSI, the questionnaire and customer satisfaction index, and we're number 1. Now, that's a premium buying experience. But to them, they wanted the appearance, the look, the feel. So we were presented with the opportunity to either make the change, build a new building to make enough space, put in there all their on our dime, or they're going to terminate us.
Wow.
Yeah, after 20 years.
That's a heck of a hit.
Yeah. And I was like, at that point, I'm like, you know what? I'm not sure this is the relationship we want to have. And so we ended up, we sold the franchise off to Twigs in Hagerstown. But because of that, we gave more room for and Yamaha's supply issue since COVID's been a little limited for motorcycles. So we were a little limited. But the e-bicycle side, the pedal assist bicycle side business, and the enthusiasm of my employees and the relationship they have in the bicycle community has filled a gap where normally if we had lost that would have been scary. So the ability to trust in my staff has given us the opportunity to advance our business and open the doors up to customers that may have not been through before. Where Triumph's a motorcycle, Yamaha's a motorcycle. You have people that come in and looking for a motorcycle. As much as I love motorcycles, about 3 to 4% of a community has a motorcycle. But a bicycle, that's a pretty large demographic that we can open up to, especially like communities like Urbana. And the things that communities have done to create riding areas. There's a mountain bike path in Mount Airy now.
Yeah.
There's a mountain bike path out by Brunswick.
Oh, really?
Yeah, River's Edge. Nicely done. It's all groomed, community built. You got the watershed. So there's in Montgomery County. has done a bunch. So we've opened that opportunity, and I give that credit to our staff, because without them, we wouldn't be able to grow it that way. And I pulled the trigger on doing it. My dad was like, we're not a bicycle dealership. I'm like, no, we're not a bicycle dealership, but we sell 2 wheels and a motor. We have, and that's what we're selling. And our love of 2 wheels, for most people, started on a bicycle at a young age. We want to go faster, and we moved to motorcycles.
But first, you have to insert the cards in between the spokes.
That's right, to make the noise. Yes, yeah. So the lost love of that one. But so it's interesting how things turn around, and people come in like, oh, you're not a motorcycle dealership anymore. You're selling these bicycles. Like, no, we're selling 2 wheels. We're selling fun. Let's do it. Go out and do it with your family, and then ride your motorcycle. You don't have to have one or the other.
Yeah.
So I know it was a big rabbit hole went down, but it's just kind of how tying in the fact the importance of the staff and their interest and their passion, and not limit it to what we feel we should be, but kind of open up the idea of what we can be.
It's very interesting that you talked about how the staff has actually impacted you so much that you actually shifted your platform because of the influence that your staff had on you, because of their enthusiasm, because of their commitment, and because of their desire to ride and experience bicycling.
Mm-hmm.
That you were open to that idea. It goes to show to me how much an individual that is working for a small company has such a massive impact. That's got to be a satisfying feeling for the 2 individuals that you're referencing here, these 2 guys, that's got to feel good to them to know that they are part of the reason why this is happening.
Yeah. And I rely on them. I rely on them. So
sure.
Their value is invaluable. I've been lucky to see a number of different aspects of the world, and recognizing where you can utilize strengths. And I was a high school teacher for a number of years. I was a sales rep for Fox Racing for a number of years on the road, going to different dealerships. I took from everything. I tried to absorb it. I tried to sponge everything in, and being a teacher is no more than the people management. You're managing a group of individuals, and you have a task. At the end of the day, you need a product, and that product's education. And you may not have a group of individuals who are cooperative, but you still have to get it done. So I try to apply that to the business as well. And I found that you get much more success if you can work with someone instead of having somebody work for you or under you. As a teacher, we learned together. I was in a teaching position, but we went in and we learned together. I learned how you learn, and how you approach things, so I can help you advance with what I can offer you. As a salesperson working for Fox, I had to go into different dealerships of all different sizes, major equity type groups that had multiple locations, small shops, much like my parents, and everything in between. And there's not a set formula for success in any one location, but you had to figure out what worked best where, and how could my strengths and what the company I was working for benefit them. As I come back, into the small family business, there's a place for everything I've learned, and trying to remind myself how that works is a daily challenge, but I also feel it's a toolbox that I have in my arsenal. Yeah.
Working for Dad and around your father, your father's not a soft-spoken individual, so he's a guy that will definitely put it out there.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
How is that? Was there difficulties in, because you talked about how you have worked for Fox, you also Fox Racing, you worked for you did work for Maryland, Frederick County.
FCPS, yeah.
Frederick County, yeah. And you've done different jobs throughout the years which were not working for your father. Was the was the difficulty, or was there I shouldn't say was the difficulty, or was there difficulties, or was it the personality dynamic? I'm always curious about this.
Yeah.
The personality dynamic from father to son, because that transition of a dad who started something, 1975, his idea, he got it going, got it off the ground, built it into what it is, and now he's transitioning and allowing you to assume a role.
Yeah,
How difficult was that?
It was challenging. And I use the word challenge. So when I went to Salisbury Senior University, got a business degree in marketing and management, and out of school came back, and I'd worked at the shop over the summers, and I came back and I had ideas, things that I thought that I could implement to help move the business forward. And my father and I butted heads really hard, to the point where it was like, you know what, for the relationship's more important than me being here, and there's other things I can do. And so that's why I went and found some other things to do in the meantime, because it felt much more important to me to retain the relationship with my family and my dad, because he had his views, I had my views, and I knew everything because I was just out of school. And
very Orange County chopper-ish.
yeah. By all means, my dad's like you said, he doesn't, he says what's on his mind, and I'm grateful and I love the man with all my heart. But yeah, no, it was rough. But the opportunity to go and do other things, I appreciate that as well. If we didn't butt heads, I don't think I'd be in the position I am now, because I was exposed to other things. So I was still racing pretty regularly, and I was pretty fast and going well, and that took some time because I had to practice multiple times a week and traveled. And so I stumbled into the teaching because, to me, teaching was the best possible job for motocross racers. I had weekends off so I could go race. Summers off because I was a lot of racing time, and the health insurance was amazing, and I could use health insurance. So that played a big part in it. So the teaching just fit well at that part of my life. And not only that, the assistant principal at the school I taught at Frederick High School, Don Hyman, was one of the assistant principals. He's an avid motorcyclist. So if I had to leave to go to a national event and I had to be somewhere for a Friday practice, Don would cover my classes. So it all worked out well for my own agenda. But my dad and I butting heads led to me to look for something else. Yeah, like I said, life's a book and we have different chapters, and it kind of gets us to where we're at towards the end. Not anywhere near the end yet, but there's more chapters to be written. But working with family has its challenges. So when I went and did those things, my brother Kyle, who's 7 years younger than me, he got out of college, and he had a theater degree, sings, acts, things like that. He came and helped my father with the business from, once he got out of school, 2001. So 2001, 2008, Kyle was there helping out the family business. I'd come work part-time here or there just to help out. But I knew that my dad had someone in the family that was invested to help. Kyle got to the point where he wanted to do something else with his life and wanted to pursue acting and his music career. His wife is from Ireland, so he decided to move to England to pursue acting and now they're in Ireland. But yeah, so in the summer of 2008, started talking to my dad about possibly coming back to the business. Kyle left to go to Ireland in September of 2008, and that's when I came back into the business. Talk about an awesome time to come back into the family business, September 2008, as the whole world's falling apart economy-wise. So life lesson real quick. We had to, if you remember 2008, it wasn't a pleasant few years.
2008 was horrible.
Yes. Yeah.
I mean, we lost a third of our net.
Yeah.
And it was brutal.
Yeah.
And for those of you all who are either younger or senile,
yeah, right.
let's refresh your memory. 2008, the economy just absolutely out of nowhere just tanked, and we're so close to DC in our locations. I swear we feel it first when the economy changes. because we are so close to so many government-based individuals, government-paid individuals, it's almost like, man, we feel it almost instantly. So
Yeah.
I had friends that were in West Texas and down around Houston and Fort Worth and Tennessee, and these guys were like, "What recession?
Yeah, right.
You know,
right,
what
yeah.
do you mean? We're building roads and the infrastructure is going crazy down here." And I was like, "Man, we're struggling."
Yeah.
So you stepped in September of 2008.
Yeah.
Awesome timing.
Yeah. Yeah.
What
But-
was that like?
It was scary. I mean, I wife, 2 kids, little kids, and I'm like, okay, I just made this decision to do this. But it was a sink or swim. You know, you can laugh or cry, and no one want to see you cry. So pull up the bootstraps, and we found a way to kind of go through it. You know, just try to struggle through it. And as much as it was uncomfortable then, I got the rough stuff out of the way. You know, we got that difficulty to get back in, establish what we're doing, and started making changes within the walls of the business. You know, when things were slow, I found ways. Okay, we needed more space, so I convinced my dad. I don't know if I actually convinced him that the parts room we had it was like a little galley. It was very small, and we just needed more space to have things that were consumables, because we weren't selling the motorcycles much, but we needed to sell batteries and tires and tubes and things that people could afford, because they may not be buying a new motorcycle. So we had to focus on the things that people could take what they had already and move forward. But we needed space to do that. So, I came in and decided that we didn't need a lot of hard parts, because back when we opened up in the early 70s, it took 10 to 14 days to get parts in. So you had to have stock parts to take care of customers. Now it's 2 or 3 days away, and there's so many different models, you can't have a fully stocked parts department. But consumables are things you have to have. So we had a packed parts room. I felt we didn't need all that room for the parts. So we're going to knock down some walls, put the counter, open the space up. My dad being my dad, is like, well, it's all fine and good till the roof collapses. And I'm like, no, the roof's not going to collapse. That's not a load-bearing wall. You can see where the ceiling was run, and then the 2x4s. So Bud was then finally knocked the walls down, opened up, and opened a consumable. So in that 2008, it allowed us to progress into where we are now. Because, it's just the dynamic of the business had changed. And every now and then when my dad gets on my nerves, I walk through and it's like, oh, the ceiling's still, we hadn't caved in yet. Yeah. Good thing the ceiling's still there.
Yeah, it's
my little dig that I can get in every now and then. It's a nice
it,
family thing.
It's a retort from years of hearing it, I'm sure. Of now living up to Dad's expectations. So Dad has to have expectations of how he saw the business perform and where because my assumption would be that there's a certain level of expectation that whether or not it's spoken or unspoken, that you feel or you carry with you as the son of the guy who started this thing. You've got to carry a burden or at least in the back of your mind the knowledge that your father has certain expectations of the performance of the business that is driving. Is that a driving force behind you? Is that something that you have there, or am I completely off here?
No, I think you're right. I mean, there's part of it that I know what he has done over the years and pay attention to. So I know where benchmarks are as far as what he level of success was. I have my own ideas of what success is and how to move forward. And I'm very numbers oriented, so focus on that maybe a bit more than he did. His idea of the business, I found sometimes is not always my idea of the business, and so trying to find that common ground. I'm not sure with you. I mean, because I remember your father, your family opened up the putt-putt.
1979.
Yep,
1980.
And then with the arcade and the putt-putt, and then at some point, Diamond Pizza.
Diamond
Pizza.
Wow, that's
where the Walgreens is now.
That's a blast from the past. Actually, do you know that Diamond Pizza opened up inside of Putt Putt?
Putt Putt, yes.
It was inside of Putt Putt.
Where the arcade was.
And the snack bar. Dad extended the snack bar and brought in a pizza oven, and we were the first pizza delivery business in Frederick County.
There you go. Yeah. And then wasn't far after that the business grew, and you moved over to that where the the burnt down shopping center now. Now it's Walgreens, right?
We moved over to South Jefferson Street.
Okay.
So we had the putt-putt location.
Yep.
And then we had the South Jefferson Street location because Frederick was growing and we
Yes.
needed 2 locations. So, that was interesting. How did you remember that? So, inside of Frederick Putt-Putt was one pizza delivery business.
Right.
And it was, again, like your father trying to figure out a way to generate revenue in the off season.
Right. Yeah, when things are cold, when people aren't coming playing putt-putt, how do you keep things going?
How do you,
Yeah.
How do you keep the lights on?
Yeah.
And these are, it's not that, hey, my dad loved pizza and wanted to become a pizza chef and learn how to toss pizza. So at 13 years old, I'm learning how to toss pizza.
Right. Yeah.
And now looking back on that, you realize how hard your father actually, or my father actually worked to keep the business going.
Keep the
It
doors
was
open.
whatever it took.
Yeah.
Shoulder to the grindstone. I think that in today's, I'm reflecting back on those times, and there was no social media. There was nobody walking around with a camera. There were no podcasts. There wasn't cameras everywhere. I remember we had a VHS-C camera that was like massive, and my dad, we couldn't afford one for the longest time. And then we had a high 8, high 8 camera. It had no sound,
Right.
But you didn't have all of the things that you see today in the sensationalization, if that's the correct word, teacher, is of, and the glorification of the mega rich. It was, but they were people. They were in Hollywood, or they
Right.
were somewhere down the road. They were not your neighbor who has a YouTube channel and has blown up and made a tremendous amount of money.
Right.
I see the struggles that the small business owner goes through on a regular basis. And I just, my hope or my thought is that the business like ours continue, because if not, we're just stuck with all these mega corporations, and there's no, like you talked about, the relationship side of it. I'm walking into Fredericktown Yamaha. It's a staple of the community. It's been here for forever. Your dad's hosted and been part of the Barbara Fritchie race for forever. And I just see this transition that's going on within our society that is less inclined to starting businesses like these today than when our fathers started.
Yeah, no, and its business model is definitely changing, and the personality of a small family-owned business, small's subjective term, and what your families and what you and your family have been able to do and grow that through diversification, from moving from locations, from taking the risk and jumping in both feet and make it work, which is not easy. That's scary, but it's rewarding. But now we're seeing that disappear more and more. We're seeing those the smaller family businesses just not existing. Whether it's like, for me, I mean, I love my daughters, but they have no interest in the business. So the family business may end with me at some point, as far as us being Fredericktown Yamaha being Riley's. You open your eyes up and everything. Sometimes things will slap you right in the face. Harley Davidson Frederick, which opened up in 78, 79, behind where Saturn, well, I guess it's now Ideal Buick, was, and then they moved to their location just across the corner from us. Well, that just sold. Mike Vantucci had owned Harley Davidson.
Really?
Frederick
Mike sold that?
Yeah, so they've been for the last 2 or 3 years. Mike getting older, health issues, had been looking to sell the business and the property, sell the Harley Davidson dealership, because that has equity and value, and then the property. And I don't want to speak out of turn because I don't know all the details, but in the motorcycle industry, the manufacturers are on a big swing to we're not seeing many family-owned owners coming in and opening up a single dealership, whether it be Yamaha, Honda, Harley Davidson. The big push seems to be multi-owned dealerships or equity groups. And from what I understand and from what I've seen is that they could not come to an agreement with Harley Davidson on a buyer that Harley would sign off on. And I've seen this through other companies as well, that it seems like companies want to do business with who they bring to the table, not to who the selling.
The business owner.
Yeah, brings to the table. So with that said, yeah, that property was sold. Now, from what I understand, it's going to retain being a motorcycle dealership, but it will not be a Harley Davidson dealership anymore. Frederick will not have a Harley Davidson dealership.
Because Harley Davidson has a particular cookie cutter idea.
They want, or what it requires to open or to become a Harley Davidson owner. If a new owner will come in, much like Triumph or even Honda, if you come in as a new partner with that company, they expect an investment. So Dutch Rose is a business since mid '60s. They've been there. They did their time. They represent Honda well. When it came time for them to do something different, they tried to sell their Together property, Honda dealership. Honda would not sign off on people that they could find. So their value in their franchise was lost. And this is a family that committed themselves to a corporate and
a corporate brand.
Yeah, and represented well. And so as you talk about that, a family business compared to corporate business, we interact. We've been able to for years. We're seeing more that the people that run the corporate are not the same passionate people about the industry that we're in. They're educated people that run companies. They're not motorcyclists per se. And so it's a challenge for us to fight for what we want to do in an environment that is not as conducive to it. We're a dying breed of a type of business within our segment.
Unless we see some revitalization, unless we see people getting involved that are interested in these types of things,
committed to it, yeah, and also it's on us, even though that's the situation, it's on us to fight forward and represent who we are and stand on our strong legs and say, well, we're Fredericktown Yamaha. It's who we are, and it's what the community needs and what the community can benefit from. And then getting the community to get behind that, because you hear it how many times where a business goes away and then says, oh, I'm going to miss going there. But how many times do they go there? It's like, or interact with it. It's, I can't sing, but I think the Stones saying, you don't know what you got until it's gone, right? So, and you hate to see that, it's, I look at things that just aren't there anymore in our community, and you being here the same amount of time. Someplace you may enjoyed going that just went away because things happen. But if it's going to go away, it better be on our terms.
Yeah. Rather than, to your point, rather than nostalgically reflecting back and going, wow, I wish, or do you remember this or this and that and the other, I'm sitting here going through my brain like, am I supporting local businesses the way that I need to support local businesses, or am I just the shut-in who's shopping from Amazon or from whatever? Get out there and get involved. And I think that's what this is all about, is with ESN and ESN Local, the heighten the awareness of what's in our Frederick community and the small businesses that are represented. We have it all the time where people walk in the front door and they believe this is a corporation, that this is a big corp. And I guess that's why I get like the review that I got the other day, which was just, it's brutal, and it's something that keeps you up at night. You're like, wait, that's not me. And I like what you said about that. It's not, hey, this is not Fredericktown Yamaha. And so to heighten awareness, to help people understand what's actually here and what families are actually represented in the local area, I think is something that is it's important. It's important for us to get involved. We always hear these sound bites in our social atmosphere that is shop local, buy local, support local businesses. Well, honestly, how the heck do you know what's a small business that is owned by a local individual? In our industry, there's mega corporations that are buying up out of New York, that are buying up FECs, buying up family entertainment centers, kind of like what you're seeing in the motorcycle industry. They're buying up the FEC without changing the name, without changing the brand, without changing the look, but bringing in the corporate management and the large players who are, and not that it's a bad thing per se, that these individuals are bad people, but they don't have the same connection to the community that a local business owner does, that is doing business in the local business. The money is staying in the local economy, which is helping us to all benefit from one another and prosper together.
Yeah, yeah. The investment, the personal investment that we have in what we do plays a big part in it. And their investment is a spreadsheet.
Yeah.
Not that they're not knowledgeable, not that they're not good at what they do, but sometimes their commitment may get lost. And I don't hate to group all corporations together, but
You see it more often than not.
Yeah, and the thing with that is when it goes like that, they can walk away with it. Like 4 or 5 years goes by, and they don't see the value in it. They close up shop and go away, and then it's gone. Whereas a family, as us, and I appreciate what you're doing, because we are so saturated with information. We're so saturated with it. Frederick County, which has grown leaps and bounds, it's hard to keep track of all the businesses and who the businesses are. You know, whether it be a family-owned Greek restaurant or just a brewery that's opened up by two individuals that have a passion for it. It's hard to differentiate, but the investment of a corporate side of it is necessary sometimes to grow areas, but their investment is dedicated to investors and a spreadsheet. And if something doesn't work, it's easier for them to close the book, shut down, and move forward, and cut the loss. Whereas our commitment, our investment goes deeper, whether it be our employees, the generational people, and you see it. The kids that went to putt-putt when 5 or 6, could be bringing their grandkids here now.
Or the people that their first dirt bike
100%.
was sold to them by your father.
And now they're bringing their grandkids in to buy one. That multi-generational part of it. That as difficult as it is to see that and continue the growth of that relationship, and to see the families come in and the connection over the years, it makes the hardest days worthwhile. Where I fear sometimes that the corporate involvement, that doesn't have the value to the corporate because it doesn't have an association or relationship for that long term. And so, like I said, I'm not trying to bash the big bad wolf. I think it's necessary, but I also think that our role in our community, we come in and do our job. We don't say, "Hey, look at us, we're a small business. You got to deal with us. Support local business." We will hashtag it, shop local, Frederick, whatever. But we also do our part on a daily basis in hoping on our own merits that people can appreciate it and then continue to do business with us.
Yeah,
And
correct.
In the end game, that's if we do our job, then we can exist.
Yeah, I couldn't agree with you more.
Yeah.
We as a small business owner, your company, your dad's company, has given so much back of experiences and memories, and future experiences and future memories will be built because of Fredericktown Yamaha and because of the Riley family, which is synonymous with motorcycling in Frederick County. And that's something that transcends, at least on the timeline of where we are today. It transcends over the past 50 years.
Yeah.
Which is impactful. So we brought up, Becky. Thanks for bringing that up. I just didn't recognize we had brought up. So this is Fredericktown Yamaha site, and you guys are right at 5800 Urbana Pike. Been there since 1975. This is This is the e-bike, the power assist bicycles, and you started selling those
2019, fall of 2019, and started with Yamaha, and then another small local business that actually decided to change what they were doing. The Bicycle Escape, which was out near Wegmans, they decided they were going to change their business format. That property was kind of expensive to maintain, so they closed up shop. They were a Giant dealership. We brought in Giant because Giant uses Yamaha motors. So now we have Yamaha bicycles. We have Giant bicycles, e-bikes. We also can do standard bicycles. If someone wants special order, we can get those in. And then we have a brand called Intense, which is a high-end carbon fiber bike from California that also has a tie into the motorcycle industry.
Fantastic.
So so the pedal assist bicycle, it gets people out moving. We fight the fight where people are like, oh, it's cheating, it's a motor. Like, nah, you're still pedaling. You have to pedal to make the motor work. Extends your ride time, and now it's a lot of fun. It's a way to get out and do stuff with people and share a passion. And the website's a necessary evil that we need to stay on top of, but it gets people to us. And between social media and the Instagram, and then being out in front of people, trying to find ways to still do some events and things like that, we continue to have to push ourselves to remind just not just to show up at 355 and Grove Road and expect people to show up to us.
Yeah, that's the truth. Well, Ian, I want to thank you for taking the time to come in today.
Appreciate it. Yeah, thanks for having
I
me.
think this was great. Thanks for the insight into what it's like, and I'd love to have you circle back at some point, come back in here, talk to us about what's going on over at Fredericktown Yamaha, and we could dig a little bit more into some of these subjects that we grazed over today.
Yeah.
But definitely appreciate you taking the time to come in.
Thanks for having me. It's been wonderful. Just having the conversation back and forth to validate some things that are in my head, and sometimes getting it out loud is just nice. But thank you for the opportunity. I appreciate what you're doing, and local business need things like this to bring attention to them. So thank you, Eric.
Yeah, absolutely, man. All right, Becky, are we good?
We're great.
We're great. All right, well, that wraps us up.